BMW R12 GS, R1250 GS, R1300 GS, or the R1300 GS Adventure. Which one is the right motorcycle for you? The answer is in this video. I had an absolutely beautiful start to the year 2026. Through a twist of fate, I got to ride the new R12 GS on Gran Canaria, the R1300 GS Adventure, and the R1300 GS, and now here in southern Spain, the R1250 GS, which I rented from Hispania Tours. On Gran Canaria, I was riding bikes from Canary Ride. So yeah, now I've gathered a lot of experience with these 4 different motorcycles, all united by the brand, united by the Boxer engine, and I want to share those experiences with you in this video. One thing I have to say right away, this luxurious opportunity to compare all these motorcycles except for the R1250. You also have that at the New Church Summit, which we're organizing together with the tourism board from the 25th to the 28th of June 2026. There you can ride the R12 GS, but also the R1300 GS, the R1300 GS Adventure, and other BMW models as well. BMW is going to be there with a big presence. I don't know what they're bringing, like 120 test ride bikes or something. And especially the R12 GS, of course, is going to be a hot item at that event. And it's also the case that we at 1000 PS have bought an R12 GS. Hopefully it'll be finished in time for the New Church Summit because it will also be our design object there, meaning we're going to use it for the promotion of future summits, for photo shoots, for visuals. And yeah, we've got a lot planned with that motorcycle. What happened was we went on the Unit Garage website. That's an online shop that's cool for a lot of bikes, but specifically for the R12 GS, they've got absolutely crazy stuff going on. And they do it with this configurator where you can put everything together so nicely, your dream build, and then you just sit there dreaming and melting into it. And you're like, yeah, that Erlens thing, I could use that too. And yeah, the big fat tank in rally styling, or these, what is it, like 15 different exhaust types. So you've got a huge selection of accessories and it always shows you everything visually in a really nice way. And then if you're not careful, the price down there on the bottom right just keeps climbing. And that basically tempted us to say, okay, let's do it too. Let's buy an R12 GS and turn it into a really beautiful thing, but also something that rides properly strong, properly mighty. And yeah, the link to this wallet-destroying configurator, which honestly hits you straight in the heart, is down below. But you have to be careful. It's addictive and you end up playing through everything. Unit Garage, by the way, is a company where an Italian rally rider and a Belgian industrial designer teamed up, and they offer these accessory parts for all kinds of models. And then it was like this. The R12 GS that I rode really left me with a very positive impression, but this is important. It's a completely different motorcycle than the R1250 GS. I honestly thought they'd be closer to each other. If someone is happy with the R1250 GS and loves that long distance sovereignty, that practical usefulness combined with that dynamic capability, then you don't find that in the same way on the R12 GS. With the R12 GS, you get the advantage of more ride dynamics, a very emotional product, something that really is fun. And you also get the advantage that you don't have that constant speed surging, no constant throttle bucking. It responds really cleanly. It's still a modern, top-designed motorcycle. And above all, you have this quality at the throttle. You roll on the gas and it responds beautifully, like a truly modern motorcycle. Nothing jerks, nothing tugs, nothing hunts. They did that really well. But of course, very consciously, they wanted load change reactions in there. They wanted strong engine braking. There's movement and life in it, you have to say that. What's missing in practice, if you're looking for it on the R12 GS, is long distance comfort and those practical things, splash protection, wind protection, weather protection. You notice that pretty quickly the first time you hit rain. It's brutal on the 12 GS, where the R1250 GS just shrugs it off confidently. That's obvious, right? Or I hope it's obvious. It rides the way it looks. It's just a bit more stylish, a bit prettier. But what you should not do is say, Ah, that's only for ice cream parlor riders, because for shorter trips, for 250-kilometer rides, it's exactly the right thing. It's also the right thing for long trips. The main limitation is wind and weather protection. It's also the right thing for long trips. The main limitation is wind and weather protection. Seat comfort is good. Stability, of course, is not as massively heavy duty as on the R1250 GS or on the R1300 GS models. But you ride, let's say, traveling speeds of around 140 to 150 kilometers per hour happily on the 12 GS, whereas everything above that on German autobahns is not really the territory of the slick new R12 GS. That's just how it is. And when you start putting luggage on it, it also doesn't look as nice as it does on an R1250 GS or an R1300 GS. Those are simply designed better for that. So that's my assessment of the R12 GS on the R1250 GS in a direct comparison. You notice that in terms of electronic features, there's basically one thing missing that the 1300 has, the adaptive ride height control. That is something that is really practical, really well done, subtly integrated. You don't even notice it's there until you hop onto the 1250 and suddenly think, oh wait, did I shrink? What is going on? It's fascinating. Otherwise, when you sit up here, you don't miss anything in terms of equipment. And I also feel you don't miss anything in terms of dynamics from the saddle. But when you switch to the R1300 GS, you do have a higher degree of dynamics, more sportiness. I'd say the 1300 GS already goes a bit more in the direction of a sport tourer. Traveling is more front and center there, and the 1250 is the classic travel enduro. The handling is a bit heavier, a touch calmer than the 1300 GS. And yes, the 1250 is weaker than the 1300. But you still have that bear-like punch from down low. It's just that acceleration feels more spectacular on the 1300 overall. So if you're sitting on the 1250, you would never think, oh, it's too weak or it's missing power. That's not the problem. But if you're switching back and forth, the 1300 is more impressive in what it sends to the rear wheel in terms of performance. I'm also pretty sure that the 1300 GS, based on development, based on the technical innovation inside it, and also based on the design and how they executed it, is more accessible. Meaning, if you're not that experienced yet, the 1250 is a bit harder to ride, a bit harder to handle, and maybe a bit more stubborn at low revs. Neither of them is perfect, but it's more pronounced on the 1250. So I dare say you'll ride tight hairpins a bit more easily on a 1300 GS than on a 1250 GS direct comparison. And what you can especially do if you're not happy with the navigation solutions is what I did. Install this Jiggy IO 5 Play from Jiggy right into it. It's integrated directly into the BMW control menu. You can control it with the wheel, and you can use Apple CarPlay wirelessly without a cable connection to the phone. For me, that's the best upgrade you can do to a BMW. Truly great in practice, and I was very satisfied on my tour here in southern Spain. It worked really well. Hispania Tours uses different generations of BMW navigators. On the one hand, he likes the robustness. On the other hand, every system has its quirks, but you already know that well enough. The newest system, from what I've read, is highly in demand, not only in price, but also in terms of function. But please post down below what you think of the integrated navigation solutions and how you're getting on with them. Now I have to build the bridge to the 1300 GS, which we also rode recently. And I have to say, the biggest disappointment again and again is that over-engineered electronics package, and it shows itself in this front collision warning. You buy something, you pay for something, and the first thing you do after the test ride is you start switching it off. Specifically that front collision warning, because it's unbelievably annoying. And now I'm worried that other things might go the same way, that they're going to build in stuff they want to sell, even though no customer asked for it, and even though it doesn't really work well. That's a shame, because the rest of the electronics package on the R1300 GS is unbelievably good. Above all, the adaptive ride height control, which works really well in practice. And then that front collision warning just clouds the whole positive impression. And overall, of course, the reliability topics, because of the insane problems BMW had with the launch of the 1300 GS, those have now reflected onto the whole brand. And in some, you have to say, the 1250 GS maybe also caught some of that image damage unfairly. It's generally considered very reliable and extremely long distance robust. And basically now across the BMW range, there's one thing everyone is watching, the shaft drive. Because with the way it's constructed, you have to pay attention that any moisture that gets in there also gets out again. And you have to, every 20,000 kilometers at service, really check thoroughly, clean grease, and if you're doing it intensively off-road with dust and also wet water, then you would actually have to take care of it yourself outside of those services and say, okay, I'll open it up. That's obviously an incredibly undignified mess around. And honestly, it's a shame because people who ride shaft drive, they don't want exactly this greasing and wrenching and cleaning back there. They could have just bought rockets, right? But now you have to keep an eye on it. That's the downside. The pros, like Hispania Tours, he said in conversation, he has no problem with his bikes. But sure, he has a mechanic in-house who opens the shaft drives after every Morocco tour, greases them, maintains them, cleans everything, and he's never had an issue with shaft drive. But who does that at home? Still, you should, especially if you're buying used, you should keep exactly this shaft drive topic in mind. And the problem is that basically all of them, the 12GS, the 13GS, the 13GS Adventure, have this shaft topic now where owner pride is a bit dampened. Because people used to be so proud of shaft drive, I can just glide 100,000 kilometers, no fuss. And now you have to care for it. And the other brands who supposedly picked the wrong horse have to lube their chain. And now at the pub table, you can get properly roasted because you don't just have to lube, you also have to replace. And that's just extremely undignified. All right, if I try to categorize who should take what, as a sovereign long distance glider, my ranking would be R1300 GS Adventure first, then the R1250 GS, then the normal R1300 GS. As a long-distance glider, the 1250 has once again completely impressed me. This long-distance gliding, this I'll ride with you to the horizon and beyond, that feeling and that comfort, honestly, it does that even better than the 1300 I noticed again. But with the 1300 GS Adventure, that's next level again. The way it just devours distance, fully loaded, completely unbothered. I did 2 big tours with it. My son is already grown and heavy now, and we had everything on it. This motorcycle was unbelievably heavy, and I rode it in Nova Scotia, for example, and it still performed incredibly confidently through radii, tight corners, direction changes. That was really next level. I know the look of the 1300 GS Adventure is polarizing as hell, but I'm telling you, if you're looking for a sovereign travel motorcycle that's supposed to do the longest distances at the highest load, then this 1300 GS Adventure is a damn good piece of kit. Now, I'm probably like many of you, I love that frame, that trellis frame look. I think it's awesome. I love it. But BMW, of course, introduced changes on the new 1300 models. On the 1300, it's more, I don't know, a cleaner, maybe practical look. Overall, they were able to save weight on the drivetrain and the new frame, 12 kilos, supposedly. And I don't know, I'm still a fan of that older vibe because when I ride it and look at it, I think this is like an indestructible body that I can go through thick and thin with. All right, folks, those were my experiences with these 4 fascinating motorcycles. On the used market, unfortunately, all of them are crazy expensive. You have to say it like it is. And that also speaks for the 1250 GS. It's unbelievably value stable on the used market. But basically, you can get them in Germany from 13,000 euros, in Austria from 15,000, in Switzerland also around 14,000 francs. You can get nice examples. And that's a statement. Because when you're riding one like this from Hispania Tours, this one has 40,000 kilometers on it. And I mean, dude, I ride it without any worries, you think. It feels like new, and then you think, I'm going to put another 100,000 kilometers on this, no problem. I just have to watch the shaft drive topic, and later at some point watch the ESA, and you basically pay 10,000 euros less than a well-equipped new one. That's fascinating, because the depreciation has already been taken care of. That's an interesting thought, and the worst price math is with the R12 GS. I have to say, I think I played around with the configurator for half a year and kept throwing in the towel because it was just too expensive. And I fully understand when people complain about the price because it's like this. People are dumb, like me. You can't resist, it's just awesome. And then you reach deep into the wallet. And that's what happens to a lot of people. So why should BMW make it cheaper? The bike is super popular, it sells like crazy, and you can rant and rave that it's expensive, but if people want it, what are you going to do? They buy it. Should they make it cheaper? I now also have to wait, I think, 4 months for mine. So yeah, BMW did it lovingly, in detail, a beautiful motorcycle, a desirable motorcycle. So hopefully they don't need to give it away. It hurts to accept the truth, but that's just how it is. And I know some people will get mad down below. get mad, but it won't change anything. It won't get cheaper. I think it's more like with the 1300 GS. People were hoping for promotions here and there were promotions last year. Every now and then, if you traded in a bike, you got a better deal on the trade-in premium. So the 1300 GS was not the one motorcycle at the end of last year where you couldn't sometimes, in total, with the trade-in, get a more attractive deal compared to an R12 GS or compared to trying to find something cheap used here. Overall, hardly anyone is willing to negotiate because everyone knows this is a value-stable thing. That's my assessment of the market situation. Now comes the most important part of the video. You're not the big talkers from the pub table. Post your experience down below. Hard, honest, no mercy. The most valuable comments are, of course, from people who switched from one model to another. How did it feel after the switch? What do you miss from the previous one? Depending on which direction you switched, post it down below. The comments down there are an unbelievably valuable knowledge base, and I really thank you from the bottom of my heart for contributing. And share the video in your groups or forums or in a WhatsApp group where people can add their input. That would help me a lot to build a knowledge base on this topic. Thank you, folks. Bye and Baba. Best regards from now sunny southern Spain. Ciao.